Thank you for waiting, guys. I am boiling some water. As soon as that's done, I will be on in maybe 1-2 minutes. Be right back. All right, we should be up and running. Let me go ahead and take a seat. Oh, yeah. I'm moving a little bit gingerly right now. As you can see, I don't know if you guys can see this, but yeah, okay. I don't know if you're familiar with my personal collection of miniatures. Mostly on the wall there was my Napoleonics, my Ancients in 28 millimeter, my 100 Years War, and I had a bunch of terrain tiles. I don't know, can you see my mouse pointer? Yeah, you see these square tiles right here? Those are like 1 foot by 1 foot, and they were on the very top shelf. I went to grab one of these boards here, this board here that is not one of the terrain tiles. It's basically one of my remaining boards. I had a few extra, about 5 or 6 extra, and yeah, when I went to go pull it off the shelf, the entire thing came tumbling down. So these shelf brackets that were screwed into the wall over here, and all these shelves just boom came crashing down. I think I've got a couple extra photos, but before we get started crying about my spilled milk, I just want to say thanks for coming out and checking this out. We stream Wednesday mornings between 11 and 1 usually, and it is basically I just sit down and I have a conversation with whoever is online, whoever wants to chat with me. If not, that's fine. You can just listen to me ramble. I talk about what my projects are, what plans I have for my miniatures, what kind of games I might be hosting or going to, or any interesting news bits that might be out at that time, or whatever. Basically, I just chit chat. But sometimes I'll talk about non-wargaming topics like football or politics or computer gaming or whatever. So just understand that this is you and me sitting at the table just having a good old conversation, and we're just chatting it out. And this episode, oh my gosh, that was that boiling water I made. I had a bunch of topics that I wanted to talk about, but this one became my not my main topic, but my most painful topic. So yeah, let's go ahead and take that, and let's click that, and let's click that. There we go. That way I stopped seeing lines on my screen. Okay, good. You wouldn't have seen them. It's for editing the photo and stuff like that. But I had all these lines. Okay, I had to get rid of them. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, so this was I got up. Let me give you a little bit of a timeline. I got up early, Tuesday morning, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do some work, because I've got some figures here that I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna be putting up on my store, but I wanted to show you basically a new technique that I was using. And I painted over 100 models this way. I had a valuable customer, someone who comes back to my store on a regular basis. He commissioned me to paint a bunch of Hungarians for him, and that took me a while. I painted probably from Wednesday, which I really didn't do anything on Wednesday. Well, maybe I did. Maybe I did some assembly on Wednesday, but then priming and painting, and over the weekend I had finished by Monday, right? And so Tuesday morning I was going to make a photo booth. I had come to a desire that I was going to make a little photo booth and photograph the extras that I was going to put on eBay. Okay, so I decided I was going to grab one of these boards down. Actually, I was going to grab like 3 or 4 of them. But when I went, and this is unusual because I'm normally not up at 7 a.m. Normally that is reserved for my wife to get up and go to work, right? I usually sleep in till 10 o'clock. That's just the way I am. And because I usually stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning painting or watching videos or TV or whatever, researching. But at this point, I got up. I was the only one up. I went up to the shelf. I said, you know, I'm going to pull a couple of these boards down and make me a photo booth. And as soon as I pulled the first board out, the entire thing just started to come off the wall. And I was like, no. And I went to hold it up, and I couldn't hold it up. And crash! It came down. And it scraped up my shins, but no big deal. I got bandages on there right now. But I was able to jump out of the way. And that's the result. I took that picture like right after because I wanted to show you guys. Wow. Okay, so I'm thinking to myself, my buildings are all broken up, my miniatures are going to be all crushed, or bayonets are going to be broken, and heads are going to be decapitated, and horses are going to be dewormed. Okay, I don't know. But so let's take a look. I took a couple of pictures here. Let's see. Okay, that was the wall that it used to be on. And you can see the screw holes that it just ripped out. Okay. I learned a lesson. I learned a valuable lesson here. I noticed that none of these boards, none of these, like this rack over here, that would normally go up this wall, none of them were in a stud. Not one, right? So of course they just all pulled out of the wall, no problem. I learned, now what my thought process was, and this is a flaw, but I thought because the bracket was 6 foot tall and it had like so many screws in that once you put the bracket into the rail, it shouldn't be able to pull because it's got, you know, the leverage, right? That's what I was thinking. Okay, and that might have been accurate if I didn't put the most the most heavy, the heaviest things were on the top shelf. I had made a bunch of tiles. I made enough tiles to cover easily a 12 by 12 and with a bunch of extras. So that's 12 by 12 1 foot squares. And what they were is those boards with a layer of cork board, or cork, just straight cork on the top. And then you could cut into the cork and make roads or rivers or trenches or whatever you wanted. And then I flocked everything. Okay, and I just put them along the top shelf, storing them, right? And then on top of those shelves, I put buildings. And I'm trying to remember what else. But I put a few other things up on top of the cork because they laid flat, so I just put some stuff on top. Okay, when I went to go pick up all these boards, I said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and put them in a box because I don't need them until I need them, right? I don't need them on the shelf. I can put them in a box under the table and then pull them out when I need to set up a table. And so I filled up this box with all the tiles. It's probably like an 18-inch by 18-inch box. I had some half tiles, specifically to, because what I like to do is put my tiles kind of as a checkerboard, and then, not really a checkerboard, like bricklaying, you know, you put the tiles like this. So that means I needed like half tiles at the ends of each row. Plus the half tiles are great for rivers because I can put a slope on one and then I can put a slope on the other and butt them together, and I can make a really thick river that I wanted to make for my market garden campaign. So I filled this box up, right? This 18-inch by 18-inch by 12-inch box. And I said, okay, great. Nope, no problem. And when I went this morning, when I went to go put it under the table, I was trying to lift it and I couldn't pick it up. It was frickin' heavy. So I slid it up under the table, right? You know how you do on a carpet with a box that's super heavy, you know, you slide it in. Thinking back, all that weight that was in that box was on my top shelf. Wow, I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did. You know, that was probably 100 pounds. It's probably 100 pounds. Maybe more. I mean, I can lift 100 pounds. I mean, shoot. But it just 18-inch box. It was awkward. But just looking up at it, I'm thinking, wow. So that the leverage thing was actually working, but it just overwhelmed it, because when I went to pull one of the boards out, it kind of pulled the shelf just enough to get it started. And once it got started, that 100 pounds just said, we're done, boom, and it just crashed. And that's what you see that's what you see over here. Now let's take a look at the next picture, if we can. There we go. Yeah, I took a look at I was like, oh my gosh, my miniatures, they're all crushed. There's the Duke of Brunswick. But yeah, there's some Brunswickers and all that. And I'm like, oh no, movement tray from Games Workshop. Wow, that's old. But, and then these were going to be my limbers and all that. They still can be, but I was like, what? And there's some fantasy figures in there as well, because I had D&D figures, but I had most of those on the bottom shelf, right? And then the next picture, which color stuff on that one, but that's some more of my Napoleonics. It just was a disaster, right? And I got like a tree up here and a bridge over there, and I had picked those up. Now, actually, I think this tree fell into that box. Boop. Okay. So so that changed what I was planning on doing yesterday. I said, well, I guess, and then, oh, let me say this. When it came crashing down, it made a lot of noise. It was like, boom, and my family came running. My son came, my wife came, and they were like, what happened? Are you all right? What's going on? And I'm like, no, I'm all right. Everything's cool. I just have like a disaster on my hand. So I got as many boxes, little boxes, like little Bang or some Austin, or, I mean, you can see them on the screen, like these boxes right here. I got a bunch of those, because I have like maybe a dozen of those. And I started filling them with miniatures. And then I was like, okay, those miniatures, put them off to the side, fill them with miniatures. And then it took me all day to pick everything up, to get, okay, I could actually probably close that. I don't know why that's open. Boop, closed. Yeah, so it took me all day to get this picked up. And as I was picking them up, obviously I was looking at them and I was like, wow, these guys are remarkably still intact. I mean, 90% of my models don't have any damage at all. But there's a few in there, and I spoke too soon because I was going through my stuff and I said, wow, I haven't found anybody with a missing head. And then the next model I was like, oh, this guy's decapitated, you know. So I went through, as I was picking them up, I was basically not, I didn't do it cautiously and concerned. I was just like, okay, put a bunch of models in this box. Let me get the next box and put a bunch of models. And I was trying to do it from the top down because I wanted to alleviate the pressure. I didn't want to start pulling on boards or anything like that and have more things collapse, cause, you know, like I'm rescuing trapped people from the collapsed towers, or, you know, some kind of earthquake. So I slowly just started pulling stuff off. But I will have to say that I was bent over on my hands and knees for the majority of the day. Well, hell, all day, right? And my back is hurting. I mean, it's not hurting. It's just muscle soreness, right? I got muscle soreness on my back and on my shoulders and on my arms and my legs, you know. So I'm just sore all over. And so I got everything picked up and I vacuumed, right? I got everything picked up. I vacuumed and then went to work starting to put stuff back up on the shelves. So let's get rid of this. Boop. I can get rid of this. Boop. Okay. And there you go. Look at that. I got my shelves back up on the wall. And all of these boxes here. And there's boxes there. And there's or you can see it maybe. You can't see my mouse pointer. But let's. Yeah, I got a finger. Hey. These boxes. These boxes are all filled with figures, and that's only 2 of the 3 rows. I got a 3rd row off camera. You can't see it. Those are all filled with miniatures, plus there's miniatures behind them in more boxes. That was my toolkit for helping me put this stuff on the shelf. And then, let's see, stuff right here. There's a row of miniatures back there, and then there's miniatures right, I don't know if you can see any of that, but there's some miniatures on this right behind the chair here. All the trees that were up on this shelf right here, I had a bunch of trees. I went ahead and put them in a Tupperware tub, or whatever they call those things, a tote tub. And it's under the table because, again, I won't need those until I need those. So like when I pull the tiles out to set up a table, that's when I'll pull the trees out and put it. So I don't need them now, so they don't need to be up on the shelf. These 4 beams that are going up, you can see them going up. Every one of them is screwed into a stud. I said, this is not going to happen again. So So I anticipate that shelf landing or lasting a long time. Downside, you can see these 3 shelves right here. They're piecemealed with a 3-foot board and a 4-foot board. And that 4-foot board sticks out just a little bit too far, because when I did it originally, I had evenly spaced these poles, not taking into consideration any studs. I just said, okay, this is going to be perfect spacing. But now that I stuck them on these studs, those 4-foot boards stick out way too far. And if I put something on the end of that, this shelf could tip, right? So what I did was I ordered 1 more of these verticals, and it's only going to be a 3-footer. It's going to be a short one, just enough for these 3 shelves. It's going to go on the stud right by those picture frames, and then 3 more of these brackets just to hold the end of that shelf up. And if that means that I can move these 3-footers a little bit further to the left, because right now I kind of pulled the 4-footer this way to balance it out. But once I get those 3 beams, and that'll be sometime next week, actually. I've already ordered them. I'm waiting for delivery. I'll slide these 3 shelves that way just a little bit to balance everything out. So yeah. And so now I'm going to have to go through, and this is where I'm kind of dread. Hey, John. Hey, yeah, it was a nightmare. Yeah. A living nightmare. But when I get my figures, this is what I'm dreading. Because doing 1 battalion a week or 1 battalion every couple of days and putting it up on the shelf in its battalion and all that stuff, in its brigades, in its divisions, that's easy, because I could take the figures, paint them up, base them up, put them on the shelf. But now everything is mixed up. Basically, 1 box might have my a base of French, and then the next box might have the next base, and then another box might have the standards or whatever. And so I'm going to have to go through my boxes and put them up there. I'm going to look at them and say, okay, this is the 21st regiment. Let me put it right there. This is the 4th light. Okay, let me put them right there. And then what I'm planning on doing is kind of like a puzzle. I'm going to have to go through all my miniatures and put them back on the shelves where not where they belong, but basically separated. I got to get them separated. And once they're separated, then I will look at them and say, okay, this guy's missing a head. And then when I go through my boxes, I'm going to have to take all the little spear tips and heads and arms, because some of my cavalry that had swords raised, almost all those arms are busted off. I noticed that. But that's nothing but a little drop of glue, and boom, they're back together. So I'll have to go through all of my, and then if I need to touch up with paint or whatever, I can do that. But I'm going to have to, I want to separate them first. And then I'm going to take all the spare parts, like heads and whatever else might have broke off. Really, not much broke. I'm actually, except for some bayonet tips, and I don't care about those. So most of the things was intact. I'm really surprised. Like 99% of it was in good shape. my not windmill, my water, what do they call that thing? It's a water mill. What do they call that? Damn, I'm drawing a blank. But I have this building that I was going to use for Freeman's Farm. Not Freeman's Farm. No, not Freeman's Farm. For Princeton, there is a water wheel building next to a bridge, and I was going to use that model, and I noticed that it's weird. It comes with like this frame that goes around it that represents the walkway around the water pond or whatever. That thing broke off, and I'm like, well, I was thinking about cutting that off anyway, so you know. And then I'm surprised that the buildings that I've got up there right there, those are all resin, plaster, I think, plaster resin or something. Those all are intact. And what's funny is you can see it right. Okay, my hand. That right there. That's a boat. Okay, that's a paper boat. I printed it, cut it out, and folded it like origami. Folded it, glued it together. Boom. Paper sailing boat, mainly for my role-playing games and stuff, but not even a dent. The thing survived. I'm telling you, everything pretty much survived. I don't want to count my eggs before they've hatched, but I am gonna, and this is the part I dread, is going up and splitting everything up, cleaning off this table. Yeah. But getting that weight off of the top shelf, I think and putting it in the studs is going to make a big difference. Okay. Got that out of the way. All right. Got that out of the way. I don't know if I want to stream super long today because I've got a lot of work set ahead for me, but I also am taking this opportunity to take a break from that. Yeah. Now, just FYI, I thought about putting a bracket over here on this end, and that way I can take these 3-footers out and put more 4-footers, and then right through, and it would stick out, my fingers, it would stick out over this curtain maybe a foot, because right now it's at 7 feet. Right, the 4 and the 3. So if I change this 3 out for another 4-footer, it would stick out a foot into the curtain. But that's okay. I never mess with that curtain. Now the reason why these guys are only 6 feet is because of the my recycling. That's a recycling can. I put my cans in that. And I wouldn't want a shelf over it because then I couldn't get my cans in there. Right? Okay. Easy enough? Simple enough? Okay. All right. Let's get into this. I'm going to angle this down. Boop, boop. There's my chocolate. Yeah. Okay. All right. These are the Hungarians. These are the extra Hungarians. I've got two support boxes and one Honved, which I don't speak Hungarian, but I think it means homeland defense. So, also, I got my Swordpoint books in. I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. And I want to talk about this flow aid and additive. That's part of this right here. And then I got my camera over here for some reason. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Okay, and this box is one of the boxes that fell off of the shelving. So, okay, no big deal. So I ordered a bunch of these extra bottles. You know, and then that has my matte. It's got the M, right? So it's got my matte medium in that. I painted all these figures with a 50-50 paint matte medium, right? So every drop of Vallejo paint that I put in my palette, I put a drop of matte medium. It thins it out without diluting the pigment. So it actually doubled the amount of paint, basically. And it was, and you can see, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that. I only used this much, you know, for over 100 models. So I think that's pretty good. And then this was the fluid medium that I don't think I even used. I mean, I used, well, let me take that back. I used the fluid medium. I mixed it with my wash, and like I normally do with the Quick Shade wash mixing medium, right? I said, you know, maybe there's an alternative to this, and so I got this fluid medium, right? So I experimented with this, and I wasn't satisfied with the results of this fluid medium compared to the Quick Shade, because I did a couple with Quick Shade, a couple with this fluid medium, and I was like, well, the fluid's pretty good, but the Quick Shade is quality. So basically you can see I haven't used hardly any of that. And then the flow aid, I said, no, let's try the flow aid. Well, the flow aid is very weird. This is a super heavy concentrate. This is probably going to last me for the rest of my life. It's like, I don't even know how much it is. It might, okay, let's just say it's $10. If this is $10 and it lasts me the rest of my life, it was $10 worth spending. Okay, but it on the bottle and on the website, I even went to the website trying to get some hints or clues. The website sucks. Okay. You mix 1 drop of this with 20 drops of water. That is your new flow aid. Okay. And so I mixed up, and it's clear. It's like water. It's got the consistency of water. And it does bubble up if you shake it. So they say don't shake it. Stir, don't shake. Okay. And so, or if you do shake it, does bubble up, just let the bubbles disappear, because they will disappear over just a few seconds. So I made a bottle of that, and you can see I used like almost half this bottle. But that was only a couple of drops of this. You know, that was like 2 drops of this, 40 drops of water, and then I had my flow aid. And I used the flow aid instead of this Quick Shade wash medium, because I tested it out and I was like, it's as good, if not better. I think it's better, actually, because I found with the Quick Shade wash medium, it's more like this fluid medium, which is kind of this white, murky, milky substance. And that's exactly what this is. And when you mix them with your wash, it thickens it up, turns it into a not a glaze, but it's okay. It thins the pigment, increases the flow, but when you're applying it, it thickens it up, and I don't like that. So I went with the Flow Aid. Let's get rid of this. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I'm gonna pull these models up and let you take a look at, you know, how the wash has impacted them. So, and I'm going to tell you, the wash is, I used Strong Tone, which I almost never do because it's usually way too dark, but I'm experimenting. So I used Strong Tone with 50/50, the Flow Aid mixture. Okay, if that makes sense. If you got me following along. Now, I am going to do a video in the future once I get, you know, all of that taken care of. But I want to do a future video where I gush on this Liquitex flow and additive. Okay, so I want to hold your hand. Okay, so I want to hold the figure up here where you're going to be able to see it, but I also want it to be in focus. And you probably do too. If you don't, you got issues. Okay. So I'm pulling up my focus control because I don't have it on autofocus. I'm going to turn autofocus on. Look at that. And let's see if autofocus works on this. And let me put my eyeballs on because I want to be able to see everything. Come on, focus. Do me right. Okay. Hey, it's doing me right. Now it's focusing down there. Stop. Focus here instead. Okay. What do you think about the dark tone? Remember, or strong tone. It's not dark tone. Dark tone is like black. So this is the strong tone, and with the Flow Aid, it did not. I'm going to tell you, it felt right. Okay, maybe there is better. But say the lens is there. So I don't know. I don't know where the focus is. But I mean, you can see the in the sleeves. You can definitely see in the pants down there at the bottom. That's a little bit much. But it really didn't darken the model. Okay, you can't. The model itself, and you can see with the hands how it flowed down inside of the fingers. And okay, I'll just hold it closer to me then. Yeah, look at the straps on his boots. It got in there, got into the cracks. This is a new experience for me, actually. Because the washes usually like puddle up or clump up or whatever. And in this case, it really didn't do that. And you can see the straps didn't get too dark. the metal, everything was painted before I washed. I did not go back afterwards and highlight or touch up anything after the wash. Okay, let's take a look at this guy. Yeah, you got a little bit of pooling in the creases of the pants, but that's fine. Look, the boots look really good. The packs get the darkness right where they need to get, and the shoulder straps and stuff get highlighted. The weapon doesn't get, the wood doesn't get darkened out way too much. The fingers do get highlighted. I was okay. Let's jump to another one. Yeah, these are all going to go up on eBay, just so you know. I painted like 80 models for this customer of mine. But since I had these other boxes available, these Hungarians, I decided, you know, let me just paint them as well at the same time, because then it'll be like, you know, easier to do. And I think they came out really well. Now there's like a camouflage smock on this guy. His binos. I'm going to have to try this technique on smaller models. Specifically, my 15mm Napoleonics. Because because of the flow aid, I think it will work well on small details. Okay, like here is the mortar team. Yeah, I even washed the mortar, of course, you know, you got to do that. Machine gun. I know, it's machine, but, you know, I'm a child. The brass. Okay, speaking of the brass, any metallics in the past, normally when I wash a model, the metallics usually get dulled out to the point where you got to go back and highlight. I didn't have to do that. The brass comes out as brass, and the rifle metals and stuff come out really good. I'm super impressed with the flow aid and yeah, and all that. Okay, I don't know if I have an officer. I do. Wait. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So the medic and the officer both have white, right? And so the white is still white. Face is still highlighted. Yeah, and he's got it's got a little bit of dirt on it. That's from the wash. But I can live with that. I definitely can live with that. You know, and look at the belt and the pants and the boots and everything. Yeah, so I'm going to start doing that type of washing basically from now on. I'm not going to abandon these guys because I think I still have 100 bottles of this. But this flow aid mixture is going to be my go-to flow aid, and my matte medium is going to be my go-to thinner for these paints. I think I just learned, or not learned, I think I just developed a brand new technique for painting personally. So I plan to do that in the future. Okay, let's turn that off and apply and okay and great. Okay. Next big project. I have 3. I got 3 projects. One is my Waterloo project. Okay. I don't feel ashamed, but I feel embarrassed. Let's see that. I feel a little bit embarrassed about what I'm about to say. And bear with me. This is just too good. This is like some Nestle hot chocolate. And I am slurping it up. Okay. I've given up on my 28 millimeters. Napoleonics. I have everything I need to do Quatre Bras in 28. So I won't need any more 28s. I'm going to be able to play Quatre Bras in 28 millimeter. But I'm not going to. I just put a huge order in for Epic Black Powder Waterloo. Just got a confirmation last night that my order is in. My payment is received. Now I'm just waiting for delivery. When is the delivery? I don't know. I'm going to guess January or February. I did not know, and this is because I'm excited about when Epic first came out. I was excited about it, the ACW version. I was super excited about it because it was a new way to play Black Powder, and it looked better on the table. And so I said, I want to do this, right? And I said, I can get some 15 millimeter ACW or 15 millimeter American War of Independence or Napoleonics or whatever, and I could do Epic Black Powder. But it never, because it was ACW, and I'm gonna have to, because it was ACW, I did not touch it. I hate or loathe or despise that period in history. Not because of what happened, or not because of any political affiliations or motivations, or that doesn't dissuade me. What I don't like about that period is it's a lot like mass combat, right? And everybody's wearing the same thing. I understand there's a slight variation between pants and hats and boots and jackets and stuff like that. But not like Napoleonics. Napoleonics, you got like 15 different, or maybe not 15, but you got like 3 different uniforms just in one nation. Or, like, now I was thinking Netherlands when I said that. But like French, you got a million different uniforms. Russians, Prussians, Austrians, British. You know, you get variety. There's a little bit of variety of what you're gonna encounter and how you're gonna battle it out. You know, yes, and cavalry in Napoleonics is actually a combat unit, where cavalry in ACW is more of mounted infantry, which that's cool, but it's not enough. There's never enough in ACW for me. So I just don't ever do anything with ACW. That's just not something I ever do. If you commission me to paint an ACW figure, it will be the very first figure ever that I paint. I've never had any American War of Independence models or never painted one. So that's just something, right? Okay, let's get back to this epic. Or the 3 projects. That's really what we're talking about. 3 projects. One of them is Napoleonics. I've always been a 15 millimeter player. I had a bunch of 15 millimeter World War II. I played Command Decision. I never did play Flames of War because I always thought that was just Warhammer World War II. So, but I played Command Decision. I played Spearhead, and I did all that in 15 millimeter. I tried 6 millimeter for a little while, just wasn't my jam. But 15 millimeter was, and the main reason why was you could get the entire battle on the table and without having to play portions of a battle. So, like in 28 millimeter, you would have to play like Hougoumont on one table, and then maybe Papillot on another table, and maybe you would just need an enormous amount of figures to be able to play that much of a battle. So I never really did 28 millimeter. I always did 15s, and then something happened where I thought, it would be cheaper or it would be easier to do 28s because you use less figures on a smaller battle that and they have more details that it would be more fun to paint 28 millimeters, which is true. It is very fun to paint 28s. But won't open?
Yeah.
You can give it to me. I can try. My pliers aren't that big, but that's okay. Okay, hold on. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this one's hard. I ain't got it.
Yeah.
Wow. We used to like run hot water over it to kind of loosen it up because it'll expand, but be careful not to run too hot because then it'll crack the glass. It's like lukewarm water. And then heat it up. Yeah, those pickles didn't want to open. Okay, so 15 millimeters. So I basically sold my entire collection of 15 millimeters, converted everything over to 28 millimeters. Bolt action is 28 millimeters. I still love bolt action, and bolt action is I'm staying with 28 millimeters for World War II because that's more of a skirmish level game, and I'm really cool about that. But if I wanted to play like a more of a battalion scale game, you can't do it in 28 millimeters. You got to do, it's like a company at the max. So so you can't like attack an entire village or whatever. You can only attack like a portion of the village, or you know, a portion of a battlefield. You're never doing the entire thing. And plus, a lot of people play bolt action as a tournament type style game where they have points and they buy armies and stuff like that. And I'm definitely not into points or anything like that. But I still love bolt action because of the skirmish level version. Me and my friends, we can play certain scenarios and stuff like that, and we can knock it out. But when it comes to Napoleonics, I sold all my 15s thinking that 28 was the way to go. I had the entire Battle of Waterloo painted in 15 at the brigade scale. So like a battalion in bolt action or black powder was actually not a battalion. It was actually considered a brigade. So there's a lot less figures, right? Maybe 1,000 figures, something like that, 1,500 figures for the entire Battle of Waterloo. And I had all that for the French, the British and Allies, and the Prussians. So I was ready to go. And I even ran Waterloo a few times at various conventions in 15 using Napoleon's battles, which is a great rule system. I still love that rule system, but I want to experience something a little bit more skirmishy. So that's why I switched over to black powder, because of the battalion. Do I want to go down to company level? No, because Napoleonic battles really don't revolve around companies. They revolve around the battalion, right? So I think black powder has the perfect scale. So I switched over to black powder, painted a bunch of 28 millimeter models. Obviously, I've done Quatre Bras twice. I painted all my Quatre Bras models, and then I sold them. And now, this is what I'm telling you. I think I'm gonna do it again. I painted all these Quatre Bras models, which I painted twice as many this time, because the battalion scale size, I went with the full official battalion scale of 24, whereas in the past, in the first time I did it, I only did 16 figure battalions, 4 bases. Now I'm doing 6 bases. I'm going to, here it comes, sell it all. I'm going to take and that's why I'm a little upset that I'm going to have to go through all my models over there and make sure they're not all broken. And if they are, I'm going to fix them. And any battalions that are not broken will go up on the store first. And then what I was planning on doing was putting regiments on, not selling them as a regiment, but selling like 1st, 2nd, 3rd battalion of a regiment on eBay, and then the next week maybe putting the 1st, 2nd, 3rd battalion of a different regiment on eBay, and then basically just eventually getting rid of all those. I feel like and this is a little religious reflection here. I feel like that shelf falling on the ground was the Lord kicking me in the ass and telling me, get off your ass, sell these models. You've been delaying and postponing too long. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. But I would never have done this if Epic Waterloo didn't come out. So I looked at Epic Waterloo. Okay, hold on. Let's back up a little bit. I counted somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 90 battalions that I had finished. Almost 3,000 miniatures. I mean, I don't know. It's just a crazy number of miniatures. It took me a year because I think I started this project about this time last year. So it took me a year to paint all of those models. But when I sell them, I should be able to reinvest in Epic for less. That's what I'm thinking. Because just miniature wise, if a battalion cost me $30, let's just say, and let's talk French, okay? If a battalion cost me $30 and I had somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 battalions in a brigade, right? We'll say 10 battalions in a division. I'm just using this as kind of a general rule of thumb. So 10 battalions at $30 would have been about $300 for a division, right? That would have been my cost for these models, not counting painting and basing supplies and all that stuff. I turn around and I look at Epic and I get 2 brigades, which is a division, for $80. $39 a brigade. So 80 versus 300. Yes, I understand they're smaller. They're half the size, right? So you would think the cost would be half as much. But I get actually way more miniatures because I'm getting 20 miniatures. That's not true. Because if a battalion is 4 bases in Epic, then I'm getting 80 models for a battalion, and the 28s is 24. So let's just call it 3 times as many. I'm getting 3 times as many models for $80 as opposed to 1/3 the miniatures for $300. So if I was to do let's just say 60 for 300. How much is that? What is that, 20 cents? No, 20, I don't know. My mind is going blank. But yeah, but $300 for a division. That's not counting the general and the cannons. And then I'm paying $80 for epic. And the bases look like they've got 20 guys on them as opposed to 4. And in my opinion, the bases are the proper shape. Maybe the bases are a little bit too big. It's possible. Maybe they should have been 20 by 30, possibly. But they went with 20 by 60 to make them even more impressive. Okay, that's fine. And then they shaved the number of bases down to 4, which, I mean, there's large battalions and small battalions, but 4 is the basic. I think that's okay. And then you get the 3 cannons for a battery. So you're getting 3 times as many models there. And they're included with the infantry. Like, since you bought the infantry, here, have some cannons. You don't get that with 28 millimeters. You got to buy those cannons separately, and they're like $20 a piece. Yeah, so with them being about, so division 20 general, you're looking at about $350 for an actual division with generals and cannons. And then the infantry come with a general and cannons. So yeah, it's not the same. So it's like $80 as opposed to $350. So I'm thinking that I'm going to sell all those Napoleonic figures, and then I'm going to take that money, I'm going to reinvest it in Epic, but I've got 2 additional projects that I just haven't mentioned really. 2 additional projects. And they're both, from what I can tell, they're both going to be Swordpoint projects. Hail Caesar, I like Hail Caesar. But I feel like, and I haven't played a game of Swordpoint yet. Hail Caesar was kind of simple, but it's also kind of figure heavy, if you know what I mean. Like, they expect you to have hundreds and hundreds of figures on the table. Swordpoint is not that. Swordpoint is more skirmishy, right? Okay. It's starting to cool off, so maybe I need to drink it faster. I don't really know anything about Swordpoint except from a couple of videos that I watched. Based on what I've watched, I think Swordpoint is going to be a rules system that I'm going to be able to get into. Why? Okay, here we go. The next book. Classical armies. What would you consider to be classical? Well, it talks about 700 BC. So we're talking about Scythians and Etruscans. That would be before Rome, really. Then you got early Rome, early Hoplite Greek, Persians. Then we're going to Thracians, Hispania, early Carthaginians, Gaelic, Macedon, early Republican Rome, Macedon, because I like to do Macedonians, but Macedonian successor, don't want to do that. That's after Alexander. Then you're talking about like Chinese and the Polybian Republic in Rome, late Macedon, late Carthaginians, not really into any of that, late Republic in Rome, British tribes, Dacians, okay, early Imperial Rome, okay, I would be into that, Middle Imperial Rome, and then Sassanids. So those are all armies that not all those armies, but there's like probably at least 5 to 10 armies on here that I would be willing to consider getting miniatures for. Yeah. Okay. And then we got To the Ends of the Earth, right? And I'm going to go over these books in other videos. I'm going to specifically take my time with each of these books once I learn the rules better. But the only reason, and look at that, Pikeman. The only reason why I got the Ends of the Earth was because of the Greek and Macedonians. That's really the only reason. We got Alexander and the Persian Adventure. We're talking about scenarios. Gaugamela, that's awesome. Greek Alliance Army, early Macedonian Army, Philip and the Rise of Macedon, right? And then the rest of this, I really could care less about. Ptolemaic and what's that other one? Aetolian League. Yeah, I don't care about any of that. But I'm big into Alexander and the fact that this actually has scenarios in it. Okay. The scenarios in the Swordpoint book are like, you set up on this side, he sets up on that side, go at it. Okay. And finally, the most important book, Medieval Armies. I want to do 100 Years War. That's the main reason. The 100 Years War is the main reason that I wanted Swordpoint. This has a bunch of armies. Medieval English, medieval French, right? It's got Swiss, super important, Swiss, because I'm planning on doing a Burgundian army. And my understanding is the Burgundians fought some wars against the Swiss. But, you know, medieval Wales and there should be like, there's some Hungarians. Hey, look at that. Italian states. Late medieval French. Okay, now the late stuff, like late medieval French, then you got War of the Roses, Renaissance Scots, Imperial. I don't know about these guys. You're looking at 1500s at that point. But yeah, I was planning on doing some, not necessarily War of the Roses stuff. I want to do 100 Years War, English and French, obviously. But I want to do some Burgundians as well. But they were mostly mercenaries at that point. I think Charles the Bold formed them into their own duchy. And then he went to war with the Swiss, which kicked his ass. And he died. So then that ended that whole escapade. But so the rules, being Swordpoint, are you now one reason why I'm not using Hail Caesar, because I have that as well. Hail Caesar doesn't go into the 100 Years War. It doesn't really go into the Middle Ages. It goes up until the Dark Ages, or really early Middle Ages. And it doesn't really even do Dark Ages, actually. It doesn't really, it does the ancient period well. And the ancient period, like Romans and Carthaginians and stuff like that, it does all that really good, but it doesn't really do medievals very good. Swordpoint is written in such a way that you can play either medievals, ancients, or, you can, if I really wanted to, it's a lot like Field of Glory, where I could take my 100 Years War army and take it up against your Republican Roman army, and we'll see how that works. So it's kind of good in a tournament stance, but I don't ever play tournament games. That's not the way I like. I mean, I did when I played Warhammer, but that was only because I was a store owner and I pretty much had to. But I could do the Crusades. I could do, I could do so much with Swordpoint that Hail Caesar just, I don't know, it just feels like it's not the right, it's not the rule system isn't flexible enough. Now, they do have SPQR, which is this Warlord, which is a man-to-man game, but I don't really get into that. I'm not really into a sword. And that's why the Warlords of Erewhon, I got into that, and we played a couple of games of that, and it's like, this is just like too Necromunda, it just wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't have the same kind of appeal to me that like Black Powder or Bolt Action has. Bolt Action as a skirmish game works for me because I think of World War II as skirmishing, but I think of medievals as ranked up, shoulder to shoulder, not war bands running rampant through a city or whatever. And so, and that might just be a psychological limit that I have on myself. But Swordpoint really, from the videos that I've watched, Swordpoint, or the designer of Swordpoint, really dives or really embraces the shoulder-to-shoulder combat style. I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to be in the Society for Creative Anachronisms. I used to go to wars and tournaments and all kinds of events and stuff like that. And yes, you had some guys that were just atypical, and they would run around by themselves because they had no concept of fellowship. But then there were others that would always stay shoulder to shoulder with you, and they would and you would have way more success fighting as a team. And that was the main thing I loved about that, was the camaraderie, the teamwork, and stuff like that. And so we would fight as units, and we would move around the battlefield as a group, and like you would in a historical battle, as opposed to SPQR. That just doesn't seem right. Yes, I understand they all have to be within an inch of each other and all that, but that's not the same. Same thing with Warlords of Erewhon. I understand that's fantasy, but even in fantasy, they're going to fight as a formed unit. Hail Caesar, okay, they're all formed units, but the rules just aren't adaptable enough. So Swordpoint is adaptable, and I noticed that Swordpoint uses all pretty much the same basing as Hail Caesar. So if you already have a Hail Caesar army, you should be able to pick up Swordpoint and use it using the same basing convention. So, I mean, 50 millimeter calves, 2 figures on a cav base, and 40 millimeters for infantry, 4 figures on an infantry base. Now, they've got a weird skirmish base, which is like this really long base with just a couple of figures on it. But I'm okay with that. I mean, a couple archers out there, pew, you know. Plus, that just means less figures. Plus, the number of figures, their units are like 3 bases, you know, but you can up that, you know, if you want to have 6 bases, that's fine. But 3 bases, and that's, you know, 12 figures for a unit. That's freaking awesome. I'm okay with that. And then the point values, I haven't figured out how the point values work, and how many miniatures you need for an army and stuff like that. That's stuff I'm going to be working on over the next couple of weeks. And then I'll have a boot camp where I explain that. Because I'm going to do my 100 Years War using Swordpoint, and I'm going to use which is mainly going to be Burgundians, and then which might be English and French as well. I don't know. Might do some. I don't know. They're all medievals, so you can just call them whatever. And then I'm going to do some Republican Romans, because I still have a bunch of Republican Romans to finish. And this time I'm going to do it for Swordpoint. Put the skirmishers where they belong. I'm going to put the, you know, the Joes where they need to be. Okay. So, having said all this, I want to let you know that I've got an Old Glory 15 millimeter order out. I've got some Napoleonic skirmishers, like flank companies, and some limbers. I bought a bunch of limbers for 15 millimeter Napoleonics at Old Glory 15s. If you're interested, go there, check them out. I ordered some flags from Fighting 15. First time ever ordering from them. Don't know what they're going to look like. When they come in, I'm going to check them out. I'm going to tell you what they look like. I ordered some GMB 15s for my Napoleonics. I ordered some I'm still waiting on my offensive miniatures to come in. They're going to be World War II 28s. A bunch of paratroopers. See what they look like. I anticipate they're going to look really good. I've got a Litco order in. Some base sizes that I don't have currently. And I've considered something strange. I considered getting a shorter base for some of my metal 15 millimeters, and then using the thicker base for the Epic plastics that are in the Epic Waterloo box to kind of balance out their head height, you know. So we'll see how that works. But I did order some bases from Litco. I think I've got a couple more orders out. Let's take a look real quick. Fighting 15, GMB, Litco, Old Glory 15. I got some Perry, still waiting for that. That's a World War II order. Oh, and Hobby Link. Okay. Hobby Link. What did I order through Hobby Link? Oh, texture. Some of the Vallejo, or maybe it's A and K. It might be A and K basing texture stuff. I ordered that through Hobby Link. All right, guys. Well, that's really all I've got. Plus, I got to get to putting my figures out. And so stay tuned and you'll see more. I appreciate everybody coming out, and